Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Journey to Greatness, day 278 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT. 20 and 80. Happy Thursday. It's that time of the month. Or I should say that time of the week. All right, so we're going to get into our meditation routine. I will see you all on the other side. Good morning, Miss Miner. How's it going? Morning, Liz. Thank you. Thank you. All right, welcome back. So we just finished our meditation routine. Now we're getting into our blessings, brother. Blessings. Thank you. Um, so we just got into our finished our meditation routine. Now we're getting into our reading routine. So I will see you all on the other side. All right. Interesting. Okay, so we just finished our reading routine and now we're getting into our journaling routine. So, in our journaling routine, I usually like to write about what I'm most grateful for. And in the morning, that is waking up and being in godly physical, mental, and spiritual health. Then I go to show my appreciation from yesterday's activities and any activities moving forward that I wish to manifest for myself. I document and journal those things also. So if you guys have any questions about that, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all on the other side. Alrighty, welcome back. So what we have here is a lot still going on. But the last time we left off, we were talking about the birth of Isaac. So Sarah, at one point in time, which is Abraham's, who now was delegated from Abram to Abraham, given that name. Top of the morning to you too, Benny. Hey Jay, good morning. Good morning. So Sarah, who is Abraham's wife, was not able to have a child. She was not able to bear a child. So a year prior to right now, in Genesis 23, the Lord came back to Sarah after a year. After he told her, "Hey, I'm going to give you the ability to bear a child." Gave her the ability to bear a child, and then between her and Abraham, and they had their son Isaac. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham. Okay, so pause. The Lord visited Sarah as he said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he promised. And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. To that point, nothing is too big. Nothing is impossible. When you believe, and when you believe in yourself, when you believe in God, when you believe in the universe, when you believe in a greater essence that's bigger than you, there's nothing impossible that you can't manifest for yourself. Isaac. Okay, so God protects Hagar and Ishmael. So Hagar was Sarah's Egyptian servant, which bore. Let me see here. Yep. So Hagar was the servant that Sarah, Abraham's wife, gave to him when he was Abram, because she was not able to conceive a child. And so now the reason why this is a big deal that the Lord has come back to give Sarah a child is because he said he would do that a year later, but Sarah didn't believe him because Abraham was super old, and she could never bear a child at any point in time before. And she actually went to the extent of giving her servant to Abraham so that she can have a child, essentially, or he can have a child. So God protects Hagar and Ishmael. Ishmael is the son. And the child grew and it was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, who she had borne to Abraham, laughing. So she said to Abraham, "Cast out the slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." Right? And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named. And I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring." So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, and the distance of a bow shot. And for she said, "Let me not look on death let me not look on the death of the child. And as she sat opposite, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Up, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. So God protects Hagar and Ishmael, which they were sent out by Abraham because Ishmael was laughing for whatever reason at their newborn son Isaac. And so Sarah, the wife of Abraham, who just born this new king, essentially king of a nation, was just told by God that Ishmael, who's also a son of Abraham, will also rule his own nation. And so they sent them both away. Right before they're getting ready to die because they can't have any water, the Lord answered their prayer and said, "Hey," or answered Hagar's prayer and said, "Hey, don't worry, I'm going to give your son a nation. And so I'm going to open your eyes now so you can see this well of water, and you can go fill up your bag of water and give it to your son so you guys can survive." And therefore, the God was with him, and with God with him, he grew up into being a man. So, let's see here. I'll continue on from there. So the sacrifice of Isaac. The Lord came back and told, after these things, God tested. So I was right. God tested and said to Abraham, and he said, "Here I am." He said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. He traveled all the way to this top of the mountain in Moriah and pretty much was getting ready to sacrifice his son, kill his son in offering to the Lord. And when he got there, essentially, the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time and said, "Be myself, I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and not withheld your son, your only son. I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your offspring shall all of the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. Now after these things, it was told to Abraham, "Behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nathor, Uz his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel, and father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel father Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, who was named Remah, bore Tebah, Gaham, Tahesh, and Makkah. So I checked in with the pastor yesterday, and she said that this is the beginning of time. Because I was like, well, if God knows everything about what was going to happen, like why was there so much incest essentially? And she responded back and said that this was the beginning of time. And later on, actually, the God says, "Hey, this is not permissible." And so we're not there yet, but we'll see. Because how are you supposed to pretty much grow. How are you supposed to grow the beginning of time of people, right? Without, in my mind, I'm like, why don't you just create a random person? But then there's different proverbs and different scriptures that say never. God's wisdom is far past the understanding of a son or a daughter of Him. So us in that situation. So never question His wisdom, which is interesting and a new perspective, I guess, to say the least. So Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah, and Sarah died. So Abraham's wife, Isaac's mother, died in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah, to weep for her. And Abraham rose up from before his dad and said to Hittites, I am a sojourner and foreigner among you. Give me property among you for the burying place. So he received he received the land to bury his wife, and then he told one of his servants, "Hey, I don't want my son Isaac marrying anyone from the land of Canaan. I want my son of Isaac to marry somebody from where I was, pretty much where I'm from my land. So see to it that you do not take my son back there." So he didn't want his son to go back to where he was from. But he did want somebody from his clan, from where Abraham came from, to marry his son Isaac. So the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take the wife for my son there. So he went back to the city, and he was super nervous. And so the servant, went back to the city, was super nervous, and said, "Hey, I really want to make this right." Abraham told the servant, if you go to the city and they turn the daughter away, so they don't offer the daughter to you to come back to marry my son, then your oath is essentially broken, because he made the servant take an oath that he would go to his city and make sure that he comes back with a woman to marry his son Isaac. So if they were to deny him, his oath would be broken, and so he'd be free to come back. If they were to accept the offer, then the wife would come back to where Abraham rests and marry his son Isaac. So he based it off of one criteria, the servant did, and he said, behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman, let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may that I may drink. And who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master. So before he had finished speaking, Rebecca showed up. The servant walked up to Rebecca. She had been claimed by no one, which in other words just meant she was a virgin. And the servant walked up to her and said, "Hey, may I drink from your jar?" Rebecca said yes. And then after that, she said, "Well, here, let me draw some water for your camels." So Rebecca did exactly what the servant wanted in a good woman, essentially, right? Somebody who allow and be gracious and kind enough to allow him to drink out of her jar, and then for her to offer to go refill the jar and then take it to the camels so that they can also be watered. And then so from there, Rebecca took the servant, all of the men who had traveled with the servant on behalf of Abraham to find the wife for his son Isaac, back to the town, and come to find out, Rebecca is actually the son of Abraham's brother. So it all worked out in the end. the son, they asked the father, they provided space for the camels to lie, rest, and eat, and they allowed for the servant and his men to stay at their house and eat and rest for the night. The next morning they woke up. They asked for the permission. The servant delivered the message of why he was there, and then they departed. But it almost didn't happen. The wife and the brother of Rebecca were, the mom and the brother of Rebecca the next morning said, hey, maybe she shouldn't go. Maybe she should stay here for 10 days. So they checked in with Rebecca again, asked if she wanted to go. She said yes, so they went off. When they returned back to Canaan, then they presented, Rebecca said, who is that man? It happened to be Isaac, which is Abraham's son. She veiled herself, so she covered her face, and then was introduced to Isaac. Isaac took her into the tent, and then God blessed Isaac with Rebecca as a not a substitute, but as a person to help with the mourning of his mother's death, Sarah, and therefore they were married. Please give me a little water to drink. Nope, that's not where we're at. And so to end, then Rebekah and her young woman arose and rode on the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Now Isaac had returned from Beer-lahai-roi and was dwelling in Negeb. And Isaac went out to mediate in the field toward evening. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to the servant, who is that man walking in the field to meet us? And the servant said, it is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. And there you have it. So that's all for today. Abraham's death. So tomorrow we're going to talk about Abraham's death, which is Isaac's father and his descendants, the birth of Esau and Jacob, and Esau selling his birthright, and then God's promise to Isaac. So we will talk about all those things tomorrow. But now it's my time to say thank you to everybody who jumped on the messenger board this morning. Good morning, good morning. And to everyone out there who's watching at home, thank you for the constant support and love. I greatly appreciate it. And feel free to say after me. This is my life. I am aware. I take full responsibility for my reality and thoughts. I recognize I have the power to manifest the best possible life. A life of wealth, love, and peace. I truly believe I have zero limitations. I trust my instincts, God, and universe. I am ready to transcend. I have arrived. And so it is. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me for episode 278 of 365. We're coming up on the tail end of 3 months. And time is going by very fast. A lot of things are happening in between. Can't complain there. I hope you all have the best day of your life today. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Peace.